Radeon Polaris launch. My name is Meg, and I'm a massive nerd, tech head, geek gamer girl that works with Gap marketing. Renato makes me do these things and does introductions to stuff. Makes me incredibly nervous. So if I talk too quick, I apologize. But we're here to for this launch of some graphics cards and stuff. It's going to be some awesome fun times. I'm looking forward to actually playing with some of the Oculus PCs and some live. So downstairs, we have two Oculus PCs running some different graphics cards, and we also have a FreeSync PC where you can play some Overwatch and stuff like that. We also have upstairs, we have a HTC Vive build that looks really cool. It's one of my favorite because it's blue. And we're running a whole bunch of Steam VR stuff and some really awesome games. We're also got a 4K Crossfire PC demo up there. That also looks really, really pretty. I'm actually really excited about being here. We also have a bunch of other AMD builds for you guys to check out. And our partners of MSI and Gigabyte, Sapphire, and Asus have some non-working cards for you guys to check out as well. We also happen to have a PC that looks really cool that's actually being used by Fnatic, and that'll be running Heroes of the Storm. And yeah, I hope you guys really enjoy this as much as I do, because I'm really excited to hear about some tech stuff. And I'll hand over to Gareth and his group. Where is he? There he is. I'm going.
Thanks, Megan. She doesn't really leave me much to say, I don't think, except to introduce our speakers for today. So, talking about Polaris and all our Radeon technologies, we have Korhan Erenben from our Radeon Technologies Group. As an added bonus, we've brought James along as well, James Pryor. He's from our CPU side of the business as well. So he's going to give us a quick update on CPU and our platforms across that side of the business as well. They've both flown all night last night, arrived first thing this morning, so I think they're doing pretty well to be still awake. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Korhan and we can start getting us excited about the 480.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so hey guys, to just reintroduce myself, my name is Korhan Erenben. I've been at ATI and then AMD for 11 years now, so it's been a long time. And this is really interesting for me. I've had various roles, but right now I manage the channel graphics business worldwide for AMD in the Radeon Technologies Group. And this is really sort of special for me simply because I've been involved in Polaris for the past 3+ years. So from product definition, we have like an internal process for how we define and move through projects and our project plans. And finally, it's coming to fruition. So this is a very, very special event for me. So thank you guys for your time. So with that, I just want to highlight what it is we do and where we are today with the Radeon Technologies Group. As of last year, we carved out a team inside AMD called RTG, Radeon Technologies Group, with just a very simple goal, is to win in graphics. If you guys look back to 2006, AMD made an acquisition of ATI. ATI was a graphics-focused company. AMD is, can do multiple things. But I think there was an overall desire to make sure that we had a well-funded and oiled machine to just execute on graphics as a whole, as a technology. We have our own R&D, our own marketing, our own business team, which I'm in, and that's our goal. And if you see, we just have very, very heavy investment in graphics. You're seeing some of that already. But we're hiring 300+ graphics engineering heads worldwide, and that's just not to deliver Polaris, but to deliver roadmaps for 2017, 2018, and beyond. It's just an area of very heavy investment for us, and so it's really something that I'm excited to be a part of as well. And by the way, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to cut me off or raise a hand. We can always make it interactive if you guys have stuff. So as we get into the product details, just feel free to speak up. So, just to sit back and look first of all at what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing in 2016. First and foremost is that the overwhelming majority of gamers buy graphics cards between $100 to $300. So if we look at gaming graphics cards as cards that generally are bought between $100 and up to even $1,000, 84% of the market lies there. We all know that below $100, it's more of like an OEM upgrade, you know, very casual or very value mainstream products that aren't necessarily focused on gaming. But we know where the volumes are, you know, and I think you guys will see this as well, is that people buy generally between the $100 to $300 US dollars in terms of segment. That's where the general preference is. That's where people are looking for the next best thing in the upgrade cycle. And then you also look at, you know, for example, the Steam hardware survey. The vast majority of gamers, I mean 95% and even more in some cases, are using 1080p or lower monitors. And so, you know, our goal with this launch is to make sure that all those gamers have exceedingly smooth gameplay and make sure that we're addressing 95% of that market. And you know, we know 4K is big, and we're not going to let that go. We're driving, you know, experiences of 4K and beyond. But this is where we're going to focus, especially in 2016. And then if we look at what people are doing with their games, what's different now versus, you know, 5, 6, or 10 years ago, is how people are not only just gaming on their terminal, but they're also creating content to be consumed by others. That just looking at Twitch alone per month, there's 100 million plus streamers and 1.7 million plus active broadcasters. This is just Twitch, you know, Amazon's Twitch. This is not YouTube gaming. And also, you know, there's very large markets like in China and so on, where there is really no Twitch, and they use other services. So this is just a massive, massive market, and obviously something that has been a major, major shift in the industry. And then VR. You know, we have a VR setup there. VR is awesome. VR is one of those things that you can't explain. It's something that you have to just put on and feel yourself, and just feel your insides move and you know, feel yourself get spooked or you know, blown away by something that you didn't think was possible. But the problem with VR is that even to date, very, very few people have seen it and have experienced it, and so until you see it, you can't relate to it. And what the issue we have is that of the 1.43 billion PCs, just 13 million, or you know, less than 1% of PCs worldwide, have the graphics capabilities to truly enable VR. And so that's a challenge for us as AMD, right? Is how do we grow that and grow that in a very, very aggressive way? Because we know how these things work, right? Is that developers, to develop the next generation of VR content, need an install base, and it becomes a chicken and egg problem. We know that the headset costs are going to go down. They're leveraging, you know, cell phone displays and cell phone sensors for motion and proximity. And so we have to do our part on graphics to make sure that that becomes an accessible technology as well. So we know that relatively very few people can enjoy VR. That's the world that we live in today. And gamers and consumers, from that standpoint, they want better. And that's where we get into the Polaris architecture, the GPUs that you've seen around this room already today. It's designed for the majority gaming market. And what that means is it's the best graphics core yet, 15% computational improvement or per compute unit improvement from the previous generation. In so many ways, it's future-proof, right? It's ready for 10-bit and 12-bit HDR displays. And you will see an HDR demo on this machine here to this HDR panel. And then in terms of the multimedia IP, we talked about gamers streaming to Twitch. You know, they're doing that right now with 1080p H.264 or even lower resolutions. Why can't they do that at 4K 60? Or why can't they do that at 1080p 120 and so on? And so, and do it at higher qualities at the equivalent bandwidth. And so the IP is actually important. You know, people used to buy gaming cards and not care about multimedia. The multimedia matters now. And then also the cool and quiet gaming. You know, we're bringing experiences that before were at 300 watt plus boards down to 150 watt and below. And a lot of that's driven by our architectural improvements, but also by moving to 14 nanometer FinFET from 20 nanometer today. And then also making these products accessible. So by accessibility, what I want to show you is, this is sort of our view internally at AMD of the graphics card market. And I didn't want to put distinct price points here, but this is sort of graphics cards by volume of between $100 to $150, $150 to $200, $200 to $300, and then above $300. And if you look at VR Ready Premium in previous generations, you can only get VR Ready Premium experiences above $300. And then where we're driving with the announcement that you saw with RX 480 is basically that we can offer that capability starting at $199. I think that was a bit of a disruptive announcement. You'll see RTG, or the Radeon Technology Group, doing more and more of these things, which is why it makes it an exciting place to work. But that we're improving the accessibility of premium products. So I don't want you guys to see this as products that are driven by cost. It's about being accessible, but being premium. And what else is going into these GPUs in the Polaris architecture? One is the enhanced geometry engine. So one example is something called a primitive discard accelerator. And this is sort of small text for you guys, but what it shows is that if you have triangles before you run the scan on to rasterize your display, if you have triangles that consume zero area or that are fully obfuscated, we have features now in hardware to effectively not draw those devices or those triangles. And as you increase the scene complexity, going from basically increase your anti-aliasing or the number of triangle densities with a certain amount of anti-aliasing, the amount of data that you discard increases. And so your performance relative to GPUs previously that didn't have that goes up and up and up. So what happens is you get better anti-aliasing efficiency than previous generations with this products. And then something called a new index cache for small geometry that reduces data movement. So as we index things that we know we're going to fetch from our cache more and more often, what we're doing effectively is reducing the number of times that we have to read out to the memory, the frame buffer, and improve the overall efficiency of the GPU. So lots of things we're doing here. What's important about enhanced geometry engines is the developer does nothing, and this is not even in the software. This is all in hardware, and so we get native benefit regardless of the application that we're in. And then improved shader efficiency. So we talked about our GPUs having a certain number of compute cores. For example, RX 480 has 36 compute cores. Those compute cores are effectively better year over year than what was in the previous generation. And that's just looking at the compute core efficiency, not looking at being higher clocked versus previous generations or being lower power. Just apples to apples comparison. And also the bandwidth. So if you look at a product like RX 480, delivers R9 390 class or better performance. It's a 256-bit device versus previously a 512-bit device. So its effective memory size in terms of bit width, or the memory width, is half, but the efficiency of that memory controller is greatly improved. So compared, for example, versus an R9 290X to an RX 480, we have something called dynamic color compression, DCC, which means it's a lossless compression artifact, lossless compression algorithm that effectively reduces the amount of memory bandwidth needed. And so basically gives you more effective memory bandwidth, especially going down from a 512-bit bus, in this case, to a 256-bit bus. Allows us to make our GPUs more compact, more efficient, but also just higher performance overall. Okay, and then the other thing that's critical about our GPUs, you may have heard it in our previous activities or messaging around Directx12, is asynchronous compute. So Directx12 has a feature that is very, very critical. One of the biggest differentiators between DX12 and DX11 is the ability to support asynchronous compute. Asynchronous compute is the ability for the GPU, in this case, to switch context between sort of traditional graphics rendering and compute workloads. And that's very important because sometimes you want to render an object, whatever it is, and you want to add an effect to it, like motion blur or some sort of distortion to it. And that's a compute workload. And think of asynchronous compute as the graphics equivalent of hyperthreading, right? Where you're running one task and you can run another one in parallel without disrupting that task. Asynchronous compute without it if you're running a graphics workload task, and like the red one here is a compute workload comes in, you have to stop your rendering, do the compute, stop that compute, and then go back to rendering. What we can do with asynchronous compute is do both in parallel and get better overall GPU utilization, which means you can get that task done more quickly because you're not switching context. Because when you have to switch context, you have to sort of reset yourself, take on the new task, stop it, and then go back to what you were previously doing. And so if you look at our gaming performance with DX12 asynchronous compute, as we go from DX11 on top titles to DX12, we get very, very strong, very measurable performance improvements on DX12. And it's not us doing this, it's actually the game developers doing this, because a lot of these games are also on the console. If you look at the Xbox One console, the PlayStation 4 console, they support asynchronous compute. It's got our graphics core next architecture. So it's just a capability that developers are natively putting into their applications on our hardware. We just realize the benefit directly. So what I want to highlight is our Directx12 Advantages on Radeon RX series. It's fundamental and it's architectural. It's very much in that sense, it's a forward-looking architecture. And then it's sort of taking that another step further and looking at graphics workloads versus compute workloads and how that applies to VR even. Again, this is what we call preemption. You're doing a graphics workload, and then there's a submission for a compute workload. You stop the graphics, you go to the compute, you're done the compute, then you go back to graphics. If you look, versus the other two scenarios where you can't do asynchronous compute, it just takes longer, and that's not ideal. And especially in a workload like VR, VR is very time critical, right? If you don't get the frame done in a certain amount of time, you're going to get judder, you're going to get nausea, vomiting, you're going to ruin the experience, you're going to break the presence. With asynchronous shaders or asynchronous compute, you can run both workloads in parallel, and that's awesome. And so we can do that and just get the task done more quickly. That's good. And for traditional gaming, that's great too. But we have another feature on top of asynchronous compute called quick response queue. And quick response queue is the ability to better manage when you do the compute versus when you do the graphics rendering. And we can even split off a part of our GPU. Let's say we have, for argument's sake, a GPU with 10 compute units. We can put, at all times, 2 compute units always on graphics, and then open up 8 for the compute workload to maximize how quickly you do that compute workload, so that by the time you're done rendering the frame, your motion effects and everything are complete. Because you don't want to complete the frame and then you haven't done the effects. Again, that's going to break presence. It's time critical. You want to do the compute before the frame gets sent to the display. And this is something that's unique to our GPUs, something that Oculus is already doing with their asynchronous warp feature with VR. And again, something that is exclusive to our GPU capabilities and hardware. Think of this, what we call quick response queue for VR, as like a quality of service feature for VR, making sure that you get a mission critical task done before you send the frame. So that's sort of the architectural improvements that we've done to Polaris in a nutshell. And so what does that net us, right, in terms of the experience that we deliver, especially in terms of the power? If we look at moving just our architecture from 300 series today to 14 nanometer FinFET, we're looking at about 1.7x the perf per watt. But if we look at what we get from all of our IP improvements as well, it's looking overall more like 2.8x. So there's a lot to be said for what we did on FinFET, but there's also a lot to be said for what we did architecturally ourselves with this architecture. And then the other thing to highlight, we talked about DX12, how critical it is. And that's something that we've seen so far on Ashes of the Singularity, on Hitman, and other key titles. There's a lot more coming. Here's just a quick preview of some of the top content coming later this year. But our own internal ISV team or our developer relations team, they're tracking over 60 DX12 titles. And again, where our advantage is fundamental and architectural, this is going to be huge. This is very much a forward-looking architecture, and the best DX12 content will be associated with Radeon. And the message there is don't get stuck with obsolete architectures, especially because a lot of these top titles, they're also developing on the consoles where asynchronous compute is supported. And so let's jump into the products now and get more into the product level and deep dive. In the RX 400 series, there are two pieces of silicon, effectively. Two brand new pieces of silicon. There's Polaris 10 and there's Polaris 11. We designed these GPUs both with particular focuses in mind. We believe that from a high-end premium VR to 1080p Max or 1080p Ultra to an esports type use case, that these are the GPUs that will serve the vast majority of gamers. Polaris 10 is a 256-bit GPU. It's what the RX 480 employs. Polaris 11 is coming later this summer or this winter for you guys. And that's going to be more sort of focused on esports and MOBA. But again, what we're delivering here is two pieces of silicon. There'll be multiple products coming out of these. There will be products for desktop channel that we'll talk about here. There'll also be products for OEMs, for notebooks, and for a lot of cool form factor stuff that we're looking to bring to market as well. And again, both of these we're looking to deliver up to 2.8x perf per watt than the previous generation. Also, the other thing to highlight is the feature-proof capabilities that are baked into these GPUs. So it's got DisplayPort 1.4 HDR ready, HDMI 2.0B, HDR capability as well. So we'll see this on this particular panel later on. And also FreeSync, right? I think FreeSync is something that was very much trailblazing for us. We leveraged an open standard driven by VESA. It used something called DisplayPort Adaptive Sync, and we turned that into a gaming feature that has no added cost to the panel vendor, and effectively creates something that enables smooth gaming for the masses. The only cost is AMD requires 2 samples for testing and for validation. That's the only cost. Something that again is clearly above and beyond what the competition can offer. So with that, I want to jump into the products. First of all, before we get into that, we'll jump into the brand. It's the Radeon RX going forward. That'll be the hallmark or the sort of how we define gaming is RX. It's short, I guess, for Radeon experiences. You will not see on new products coming out R5, R7, and R9. You'll see RX for gaming, and maybe in the future, if we do new products that aren't necessarily in that full gaming class, it might just be a Radeon, but RX is what's going to define gaming going forward. So we're going to be the 400 series this year. That includes all form factors, not just desktop, but we're looking to get notebook products coming to market, all-in-one products under the same branding distinction or same branding nomenclature. And so these are the products, right? There's the RX 480, the RX 470, and the RX 460. So the RX 480 and the 470, that's the Polaris 10 chip. The RX 460, that's the Polaris 11 chip. But the chips don't matter here because we don't sell, and our board partners don't sell chips, they sell end products. And each of these end products solves a very distinct problem. 480 is for beyond HD gaming. It's focused more on 1440p and VR premium experiences. 470 is for 1080p Max or 1080p Ultra. And 460 is about esports. It's about having the best gaming and streaming experiences with esports titles. So 3 products solving 3 very distinct problems. And what's important to highlight, and I want to make this clear, is it's actually fewer products than we had in the 300 series. So in kind of these segments, last year we had the 370, the 380, the 380X, the 390, and the 390X. That's 5 products versus 3. And I think in many ways, and I'm on the business team, it's better to have 3 products that just solve 3 distinct problems than having more products. And that's effectively our goal, is to have a very simple stack, very simple branding, and a very simple value proposition for each of the products. And with that, we'll jump to the RX 480. Again, this is a Beyond HD premium VR experience product. This product has enabled up to 5.8 teraflops. That is our design. AIB designs, from Sapphire, MSI, Gigabyte, XFX, and so on. They can go higher. This is just based off our reference with a boost clock of up to 1266 megahertz, 36 CUs, memory bandwidth of 224 gigabits per second or higher. But that's also something where we employ our delta color compression, so the effective memory bandwidth versus previous generations is even higher than that. And again, we're enabling all of this with a 150-watt board, and obviously our AIB partners can differentiate from that. And what you're looking at is our reference blower design. Expect that later on in the coming weeks and months, there will be axial designs coming from the partners as well. And so if you look at the RX 480 in this case versus a product that's in a similar segment, we're comparing an 8 gigabyte board to in this case, a 974 gigabyte. And if you look at it across Directx12 workloads, Directx12 is where this product shines. Directx12 is where the next generation of titles are coming for this, back to school and holiday cycle. It's a clean kill, especially as we look at Directx12 workloads. Again, this is leveraging our asynchronous compute capability with GPUs, and also with DX12, what we get that's very novel and interesting, and what makes it so exciting is the multi-GPU scaling we can get with DirectX12. With DirectX11, our scaling capabilities were rather limited, simply because the API did not natively support multi-GPU. DX12, as an API, inherently supports multi-GPU. So as the app takes advantage of DX12 fully, you can get near linear scaling with DX12 that you can never get with DirectX11. So if we look at just GPU to GPU, it's great, and then we can multiply that as we add multiple GPUs to the system, especially with DirectX12. And then just a quick teaser with Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 is going to be a DirectX12 title. And again, this is just to underscore that these are absolutely, in every sense of the word, premium products in terms of the performance, in terms of the feature set, and in terms of the gaming experiences that they deliver. Battlefield 1, I believe it's Q4, but I could be wrong. But again, this is something that's going to be using a brand new ground-up DX12 engine and we're working with that developer to take advantage of all the features of DX12. The other thing to highlight is that Battlefield 4 from the same developers was the first title 3+ years ago to use the Mantle API. If you look at what Mantle, the problems Mantle solved 3-4 years ago, and what DirectX12 is today, it's almost the same feature set. And going back to why we are so strong in DirectX12, it's effectively Mantle. From a feature set perspective, the problems that Mantle was solving, the industry jumped onto it. There's DirectX12, there's the Vulkan API driven by the Kronos group, and there's also Apple. Apple has a Metal API. They use it on their Mac OS. It's very similar. It all goes back to Mantle. And so as they're using DX12 in these new applications, a lot of what we did years ago is coming to fruition today. And then the other thing about 480 is that is our premium VR product. And we announced this as it was disruptive, but we announced it as a $199 product at Computex to enable premium VR. And that is what's going to move the needle in terms of VR development, VR system price, and getting VR into more and more people's living room. This is going to be our VR premium halo. This is where it's going to start. And the RX 470. This is the product one below, obviously the RX 480. This is also a Polaris 10 product. What I can tell you is that this is coming, this will be available in the coming weeks and months. We can't give you an exact launch date yet, but we are working with our board partners to deliver this to market. One thing to highlight is that you're seeing a blower-based design here. Our board partners can make that available, but generally this will come as an AIB, an add-in board partner design. So more likely to launch with dual or triple fans and so on. Thing to highlight here is that it's most likely going to be 4 gigabytes of GDDR5. AIB partners can go to 8 if they want, and do all the OC work and so on if they want with it, with a single 6-pin power connector. But again, our partners can go above and beyond that as they see fit. And the focus of this product is, again, 1080p gaming, HD gaming at ultra or max settings. And then the RX 460, this is sort of the mainstream gaming card. This is the one for people that want to play, obviously, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, Dota, League of Legends, not just for the gaming part of it, but for the streaming aspect of it as well. So we're working already with the ecosystem to make sure that the multimedia engine that's in this, and also in the 470 and the 480, is fully utilized for those esports types of applications. It's going to be this product as well. So this is coming also in the coming weeks and months, and this will come from our AIBs. This is a mock-up of what we think the final AIB product will look like, but again, we're leaving that up to our AIBs, and we're working with them to bring that product to market soon. And just to highlight the streaming capabilities that we're putting into these GPUs. So if you look at what these GPUs could do from a multimedia perspective, if you want to have these in a home theater type system, we could do 10-bit HEVC, so that's premium content from Netflix and Amazon. That's 4K. It'll cover your favorite streams from Twitch, YouTube, and then also from Skype using HEVC. So again, it's got the latest multimedia engine to go do that, not just to decode, but also to encode as well. So we'll talk about the encoding specifically for gaming. And those gaming capabilities from previous generations to now, what we can do is, before we were on H.264, now we're doing HEVC. We can go up to 4K 60, or 1440 or 1080p, 120 and 240 on these new GPUs in a way that's more efficient. So think about it as you have the same bandwidth cap to stream your content, you could do it at much higher quality than you could in the past. And then we're working across all those the entire software ecosystem. We're going to have our gaming evolved client using this capability in this multimedia engine, but also open broadcaster software and Place TV will be supporting these over time as well. The other thing to highlight that's interesting about RX 460, it's a smaller chip. It's a compact chip. It's something that you will start seeing in very thin and light premium gaming notebooks. And here, we've publicly shown an HP one, but there's other ones that will be coming to market in 2016 and into 2017 as well. So we made Polaris not just for the desktop market, but also for the mobile gaming market, leveraging our efficiencies and our features for what we call, those custom style designs. So slowly wrapping things up. If you look at what we have in the new Radeon software, as well as supporting Polaris, game-changing control. If you've seen the new, Wattman capability that's in our software, you have control over the minutia of the GPU that we never exposed in the past. You can create your own voltage curves, and it's sort of you do it at your own risk. But if you know what you're doing, you can get a lot more out of the GPU. And then you can also customize your acoustics. So we have a new feature in our GPUs that can enable silent gaming across all the board partners. So that when you're doing your Ultra HD video playback, you have a 0 dB fan, or you basically have a silent fan. It's not spinning. Light gaming, again, if you're just playing League of Legends, your fan can be off completely. Then when you go to your heavy workloads, the fan goes to its normal fan profiles. For all of our axial designs, we'll be supporting that, where the fins are exposed on the on the blower designs, the blower will always be spinning just because there's no ambient sort of air going over the fins. But on our AIB partner designs, you will be seeing this feature supported. And then sort of capping it off, just some details, speeds and feeds on 480. You guys can take a look at this later, but it just gives you all the details in terms of the memory speed, the fill rate, number of drops, and so on, and the supported features. I won't go into any of these details. These will be forthcoming for 460 and 470, just not at the moment. But just to recap where we are in 2016. This is our RX 400 series stack for 2016. It's awesome. It's going to win the majority, over the majority of gamers, or where the volumes are. It's going to be the 480, the 470, the 460. Each of them solves a distinct problem. But what I want to highlight to you is that's not all we're doing. And we have a roadmap. So I work in the Radeon Technologies Group. My office is based in Toronto, Canada, where the head of a lot of the R&D is, and where the business teams are and the software teams. We're already working on not just the 2017 stuff, which is Vega, but we're going into 2018. We're going beyond. What I mentioned to you guys was that I've been working on Polaris for 3 years. So that takes us back to 2013. We're working for the next 3-5 years out in terms of what's exciting and what's coming. So one thing that I want to highlight is that we're hitting that volume market. The top end in the market is absolutely still important to us. We'll get there, but right now our goal is to make sure that we win with the 480, the 470, the 460, and we believe for the majority of gamers, we've got the best products to go into that. Thank you.
Thanks, Korhan. We thought we'd split up the Q&A, if you like. We'll have some questions for Korhan if anyone has any, and then following that, James will speak for a while, and we'll have another CPU session afterwards. So, any questions? Making your job easy.
Nothing about the PCIe current draw?
Yeah.
Nothing?
Dominic Sherriff from Nitro.net. Given the shaky launch of the past 2 weeks, what are you going to do to get back enthusiasts? What's it called? Reputation of enthusiasts.
Sorry, given what launch?
This was a shaky launch from an enthusiast point of view. What are you going to do to get back your reputation from those users?
Shaky. Sorry.
Launch. A shaky launch.
Okay, how is it shaky?
You know what?
Just give me some details so I can address it, because shaky is a bit of an abstract term.
Yeah, I think Dominic's talking about the PCIe.
Okay, yeah. So let's talk about that. Is it the PCIe current draw? Okay, let's talk about that. That's fine. Right. So we did see that in some cases that it was overdrawing on the PCIe bus. Fair point. And what we saw was that we did a lot of investigation internally. The entire team worked, across the weekend to root cause it, understand what's happening. We did see that it could be in some corner cases a compatibility issue. We don't see it as a reliability or sort of a system safety issue by any means. And so what we have issued as of last night is a public compatibility fix that the user can toggle if they choose to. And if the user does choose to toggle that, what we've also put into the driver is a performance improvement, a performance bump, versus the launch driver that actually gives you a net performance improvement while not overdrawing on PCI Express. So it's an issue that was found. It's a brand new product. Products always, have a couple of hiccups on the way. We patched it within a couple days, and now the performance should be better than it was at launch. So I think it was a pretty good job overall.
But a small fix doesn't go anyway to get back to the confidence of the users, though. The damage has been done already.
I'm not really, because the feedback we got from social media and from a lot of the press was that it was, we found an issue and it got resolved.
I'll add something. I actually think that is a good thing to see that AMD has worked so hard to get that fixed. And I've seen on the forums and on Facebook that a lot of people are sort of praising your efforts to get a drive out already. months to hear something like that. So I actually think it's good.
Thank you.
You're talking about the 100 to 300 US kind of mark for the sweet spot, but with the Australia tax, the 480 has hit at a mid-range price, and there are cheaper cards from last generation that outperform it. So, do you think there's going to be significant performance boosts with third-party 480s, or is there plans for a price drop? Because at the moment, where the price stabilizes in Australia is $440, and you can get some 970s, you can get the 390X for cheaper than that, and they outperform the 480.
It's actually $319, the cheapest 480.
Yeah, for the full.
Where the price stabilizes for the 8 gig is $440.
Oh yeah, but you can't say like stabilize like the cheapest.
Yeah, well, you can, because they go up to 480. The cheapest for the 8 gig version is $379. That's been sold out since day one. XMX did not
Expected like.
But that's imported. That's not for a direct seller. So in regards to talking about Australian distributors, okay. So Sapphire probably at the moment is the cheapest, $419. Right, just correctly. I think the pricing, I'm not too sure what's going on there. Like you're saying.
Yeah, whether there's going to be a stabilization, whether there's going to be a push to lower the price to make it more competitive, because at the moment it's sitting at kind of an awkward level.
Okay. So let me talk. So let's talk about pricing Australia versus the US. From that perspective, I feel your pain. Like I'm based in Canada, right? And so US SEP has a different, has a similar meaning as what you would say, that you don't see it here for $199 or $239,
well,
right?
We're seeing it for twice the
I
price.
see you. I hear you. I think US SEP sets a benchmark, and then what happens is, I'm just talking from a business perspective, is when we talk about SEP, we enable a certain cost for the solution. In every region, whether it's Australia, Canada, US, India or Japan or Timbuktu, they all have their own downstream margins, right? And so, and import taxes and so on, which we effectively don't control, but the relative ups and downs for the given, across markets should be flat. We enable the price to the AIB that enables it. Now, what can happen is, with N-1 products that are being phased out, there can be liquidations on those. That can always happen, but we should make sure, and our sales team always does make sure, that the pricing is in line with the downstream margins for that given region. Now, at launch, screwy things happen, right? And that's expected, but that should not be the steady state.
So
just being totally open with you on that.
Sorry, is it common around the world that there's a lot of those early gen, better performing cards that are cheaper? A lot of regions seeing that?
The previous gen, it does happen. But, it does happen because people want to move on to the next product.
I think
the people that want to buy that product, say 2 years old, have probably already done it. And if you're an e-tailer, or if you're a retailer and you have inventory on stock, even if you have to take a loss on it, you want to move the inventory. That does happen.
Blowout sale prices, though, they are the prices.
And that's that's a different scenario, and that would be price skimming, which we work with our AIBs and our sales teams to make sure that that's discouraged heavily. Right? And there's certain levers we have with our partners to minimize that. But if you're seeing it for 2x or whatever, that's not right. Shoot Gareth an email. He'll shoot back to me or to our regional salespeople to make sure that gets corrected.
A statement came out in the last 24 to 48 hours from AMD saying there was only one reference design for the RX 480 to help push the card out to market faster and also to reduce the sort of cost. Is that going to be the same situation for the RX 460 and 470?
No, 480 is what we call MBA, or made by AMD board. So we actually we do the cooler, the blower design, everything ourselves, and we sell the board to the AIB. That gets us to market more quickly. With products like 470 and 460, you see those products coming later, and it's because the AIBs are doing their own ground-up designs for those.
So you're not worried. So in that sense, the problem that has cropped up with the RX 480 and the flashing with the
see that as a long-term concern at all.
From a marketing point of view, what is RTG's current strategy in terms of designing the capacity of the GPUs? For example, in the old days, A2I switched from a big core to a small core strategy, and you had cards with small cores, and you built dual GPU boards. And now we have Polaris 10, we have Polaris 11. What is the strategy now from RTG? Are we going to see these sorts of similar size chips as your building blocks?
Yeah, so are you asking for, is your question of whether there'll be a dual GPU version of the 480?
Well, that's what you're saying. I'm just not what I was asking.
I was trying to formulate, okay. I can't comment on that. You know, we're always working on future products. There is a Radeon Pro Duo demo here, so we took our two Fiji GPUs, Fury GPUs, and we put them on a board for a particular use case. It's always an option, but we can't comment on that.
So, can't elaborate on what Evan, the product manager, said that there was nothing left for the users to unlock in Polaris 10. So basically that pretty much aligns with what I'm asking if that's the size of chip you guys are going with these days.
There's nothing left for users to unlock. I think that's maybe a different, I think that statement is probably addressing a different kind of question.
Yeah, all we're saying is that the 480 is fully utilised in terms of compute units. So which strategy we go, we can't talk about, but there's obviously different ways to go. And as Korhan mentioned, there is Vega coming, so that will address a different part of the market.
Yeah, and I think what Evan Gronke, right? Sit beside him. So I think Evan's comment is nothing left to unlock on the 480 is that the Polaris 10, the silicon, the floor plan has 36 CUs. Okay, and so there's no more CUs to unlock on that product. It's a 36 CU product. Now the full configuration is 36 CU. The 470 serves a different purpose, and it is a 32 CU product.
Did I understand you correctly by you were saying you actually ship a complete board to your assemblers rather than just the chip on the 480?
On the 480 blower design, yes. So if you saw what we've launched and what you can buy today, it is a board that we make that we sell to our AIBs. The AIBs, it gets them to market as they create their own native products. Yes, but generally speaking, over time our volumes will be on us selling the silicon, the chip, to our partners, and then they bring the boards to market. That's generally the industry practice as well.
AMD is investing, or at least betting a bit more on esports this year in the Australian market. How do you see that changing over the next 12 to 24 months? What kind of growth do you expect to see?
I don't know if I could talk about numbers for esports specifically, or growth, just because we're in a quiet period, and so I can't give specific market or volume expectations. But I think from a software ecosystem, it's just going to grow and grow and grow here and elsewhere. I don't know.
Okay.
I just got one more.
Sure.
Just fabrication related, does Polaris 10 support GDDR5X?
No.
Okay, and second is, who's building Polaris 1011, Global Foundries or TSMC?
I can't comment on that. It's 14 film.
Okay, I think we can head over to James now. He's got a quick update for us. Thanks, Korhan, for your time.
All right, we've got plenty of seats down here at the front if anybody wants to come in and take a seat right here. Get a little bit closer, quit standing or whatever.